What do these acronyms basically stand for? The first one is LOL. What does it stand for? What do you think? Yes, exactly. Laugh out loud, yes. The second, BRB. Be right back, yes. The third, on my way. TTYL, talk to you later. Yes, great. POS. This is usually for kids with parents. And you might see it on your kids' phones. Huh? Parent over shoulder. Yes, you might see your kids are like POS, which means like, be careful what you're saying. My parents over my shoulder. Okay. GNST, DLTB, BB, triple B. Aywa. Yes, exactly. A lot of people actually use this. And the last one is see you later. Yes. Okay. So those are common acronyms new generations use all the time. Obviously, we've gotten used to some of them. There are much more, but those are very common. Everybody uses them all the time. Okay, what do these emojis mean? The first one, what do you think this means? Wink, yes. The second one, sad or angry, usually. Okay, the third, happy. This one, cute. Who said cute? Okay, this one, he's crying, he's upset. Yes, this one, disappointed, upset, annoyed. Okay, and the last one, this is very like new. I saw my nieces use it and I asked them like, what does this mean? Huh? It's high five. I never knew that. I saw my nieces use it and I was like, what does that mean? They're like, high five. Okay. So who are our students? We need to understand our students. We need to know our audience before we start presenting something to them. We need to understand the differences between our generations. I'll be talking about 4 main generations in brief. The first one is the boomers. They're the TV generation, typewriters, the memos, those kinds of people. TVs were introduced around the boomers generation, and they didn't have a lot of like computers and stuff like that because it wasn't introduced at the time. So it was just TVs, and at the time it was like black and white, and then we started seeing colors and this kind of stuff. Okay, then we have Gen X, Generation X. They're the generation that started with video games, computers, and emails. They started with the old video games, if you remember, Atari, MSX, and other games as well. Yes, then the first Nintendo and 64 and a lot of them. Then we have the millennial generation. They're the web, the internet people. We had personal computers, laptops, mobile smartphones, instant messaging, online communities, those kinds of things. At the time of millennials, you used to see a lot of people sit in a chat room and they were just chatting all the time, talking to each other. Okay, if you remember, yes, Pal Talk, MSN, they were like old stuff, yes. And then we have Generation Z, the Zoomers. Generation Z is basically the tech natives, okay? They use social media all the time, TikTok challenges, this kind of stuff, social media, online education, touch screens everywhere. And this is an actual issue, I'm telling you from experience. I'm an IT instructor here at K-Tech. I get students who are born, they're Gen Z, okay? And they come to labs and they expect the computer screen to be touch. They don't want to use the keyboard and the mouse. They're touching the screen like this. So they expect touch screens everywhere and they're doing TikTok challenges. In brief, those are the generations. Gen Z are known as the Zoomers or tech natives. You have the techies, millennials. They're basically called the tech savvies because they've seen the change over time when technology started actually booming. Gen X, they're the survivalists. They saw a lot of changes, pop culture and this kind of stuff. And then you have the boomers where they had the analog phones, cords. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Let's do a small exercise. I will ask you a question. I want you to make a hand gesture as if you're making a call, if you're talking on the phone. What hand gesture would you make? Exactly, yes. Almost all of you, you did this, okay? We're the older generation. We do this. We're used to this as being the phone hand gesture. Ask it to your kids or young students, and they will do this because they're used to holding like the iPhone or something. They will do this. I was very surprised when I actually tried this. You can even ask your kids as well the same question. Let me ask you to do like, let's take a photo. What hand gesture would you do basically? Huh? Yes, exactly. We do this, and even with the sound, this is what we do usually, okay? Because we're used to it. That was the old cameras. These days, also ask your kids, ask the young students. They will do this and do this. They're trying to hit on the iPad or the phone because they're used to this, okay? So differences are big with different generations. By the age of 21, these days, okay, the average person will have spent 10,000 hours on video games, 20,000 hours on emails, 20,000 hours on TV, 10,000 hours on a cell phone, and only 5,000 hours reading. You can check the resource, basically. I put it down there. But this is basically how it goes. Older generations used to read a lot, but these days, look at the differences. Only 5,000 hours reading by the age of 21. You spent 21 years just reading 5,000 hours, and then you watch TV for like 20,000 hours. This is how it is with newer generations. The big question is, how can we as teachers enable students to be successful in education? How can we engage them? What students want in a learning environment? They need the teacher to have an in-depth knowledge of their field. Why? Why do you think that? Huh? Okay, yes, but the main point is true, yes, huh? Yes, okay, that's great, huh?
Because they can't really find information themselves, so they want the teacher to.
Okay, I don't think it's too difficult to find information these days, but yeah, maybe. Yes. Yes, we're older, we're more experienced, we're supposed to give them the knowledge, we're explaining something. But the main reason, and I actually did a survey about this, and the main reason why they need us to know what we're talking about is because they don't want to prove us wrong. They can just Google what you just said and tell you you're wrong. And it will be very embarrassing in the classroom. So we need to know what we're talking about before we actually tell those students. Back in the day, if I told a student the sun comes out from the west, he wouldn't know, he can't Google it. Yes, that's a very common fact. Yes, it's easy. But if I tell them something, they can't actually Google it. They can't know if I'm saying the right thing or not. But now they can just easily Google it in class, especially in colleges and universities, because everybody has access to their phones. So we need to know what we're talking about before we actually discuss it. The second thing is the ability to use technology effectively. They want to use technology. They're tech natives, basically, like we said. They want to use technology. So they don't prefer using papers. They want to do things online. They want to do things on their phone. So try to also help them with this kind of activity, kind of. Don't overuse the technology. Don't just overdo it just because you want to use technology. Use it when appropriate. Sometimes you don't need technology for certain things. Earlier, I attended a games workshop thing. Some of the games were really nice, honestly speaking, especially for me as an IT person. When I hear the word like, let's play a game with students, my mind like automatically goes to technology, games online and stuff like that. But he introduced some games that you can actually play with cards, board games, and it was kind of new to me, honestly, to use in the classroom. So yes, don't overuse it just because you want to use technology. Interactions, make sure you're interacting with your students. Students learn from thinking. They learn from engaging activities. They will remember engagements. They will remember their answers. They will remember some discussions. They will not remember every word you're saying. So you need to make it interactive. Some concerns that we face with the newer generations are the short attention span. And this is very, very important. Younger generations have shorter attention spans, and it's a big issue. They can focus with you with like I think like 20 minutes, and then their mind just goes somewhere else. So you need to keep them engaged. Choose not to pay attention. Some of them, they choose not to pay attention. They actually like deliberately choose not to pay attention. I'm using my phone, I'm listening to something. I remember during the World Cup, a lot of students actually came to classrooms with their AirPods in their ears and they're listening to World Cup. They're ignoring classes. They're just watching the game. So you need to get them engaged, not just as listeners. Lack of reflection. This is also another concern a lot of people face. They don't reflect back on anything they've heard or learned. Lack of textbook literacy. They don't read books. Even if they want to read something, they just Google it, they read something small and that's it. They just get like skimming parts and that's it. They don't read. Lack of identification of source of quality. When they Google something, they find something on Wikipedia, and students come to me, a couple of students came to me a couple of times and they were like, Miss, I saw this on Wikipedia and it's a fact. And I'm like, no, it's not a fact. Did you know I can edit everything on Wikipedia? Did you know you can go to Wikipedia and just edit and change anything you want? Wikipedia is not facts. So it's not a trusted source that you can get information from. Okay, so you need to check the quality of your source. So this is another concern. Generation comparisons. We did a couple of comparisons earlier with the phone gesture and with the camera gesture as well. For the new generations, Control-Alt-Delete on the keyboard is basically basic ABC. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows how to do this. Computers fit into backpacks. Photos are processed in under an hour. These days, you don't need a professional to Photoshop everything. Everything is done automatically online. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, a lot of filters are there. Everything is expected to be touch screen. Everything is expected to be a touch screen. If it's not touch screen, they tell you it's not updated. It's old, it's old. Okay, next. What are the benefits of using technology in education? What do you guys think? What are the benefits? Engaging students. What else? Huh. Okay, yes. Supporting teaching, how? Okay, yes, that's true. That's very true, honestly, yes. Huh. Okay, yes. Anything else?
I'm teaching my students to save all the links I send them because they don't have textbooks necessarily.
Okay, yes.
And I said, this is how you organize all the links and all the videos that I give you for 60 weeks.
Nice.
Because if you don't teach them that, they will lose it all.
Yes, exactly. That's very useful as well. Yes. Okay. So some benefits of using technology are it prepares the student for the workplace, the workforce. When they go into the job market, they actually use computers, they use emails, they use a lot of technology tools. So it gives them hands-on experience on a lot of things. It supports different types of learners. You know, we have sometimes some slow learners, and it's difficult to manage if you have like a large group of students and you have a couple of slow learners. You get confused whether to go slower or go faster or do this or do that. You have to kind of try to accommodate everybody. But when you use technology, we have so many tools that helps all types of different learners. You can record your sessions. You can give them like independent classes, lessons they can do on their own. There are a lot of different things. It also helps with students how to be responsible online. Whenever you're helping them basically do some kind of discussions online, you can have them join a forum or a discussion group. They have to be responsible online. They have to know how to communicate with each other. It teaches them communication skills. They have to learn how to respect each other. Okay, just because nobody sees you online doesn't mean you can say just anything. It's hurtful sometimes. So it teaches them how to be respectful. Okay, especially that they know the next day they're coming to see their classmates. So they know there's responsibility of anything that they do online. It helps learners learn new skills, new knowledge. It helps them do some research, independent learning. You can give them assignments online, they can search, they can find something, and it's very helpful for everybody to be more independent. It helps learners stay up to date with the new technologies. Every time you use something new, it helps them think of new ways of technologies. They know how current technology is, what kind of tools they can use when they go to the workforce, those kinds of things. طبعاً, there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of benefits, there's a lot of things. I just listed a couple of them. It also adds a fun factor to learning. That's another benefit to technology. It adds a lot of fun. It encourages collaboration. It allows access information more easily. They can access it online. If somebody's traveling, they're homesick, whatever it is, they can access it online through their laptops, phones, tablets, anything. It makes distance learning more accessible. Sometimes we face those kinds of issues. Some students, if you remember, like during COVID, distance learning and those kinds of things was difficult. So technology made it easier. Everybody went to technology. We were using technological tools to teach students from a distance. It helps also educators when grading is done automatically. You don't have to go through paper and just grade them one by one. It can be done automatically using LMS, learning management systems, using other systems as well. The material is easily copied and reused for future classes. You don't have to keep doing it again and again. I'll give you a small example. I don't know if any of you is a teacher in any government school, but for example, government schools here in Kuwait, they lack the technological aspect. They still use papers. Their preparation, their lesson plans and everything is done manually on paper. So I see my sister is a math teacher in a government school. I see her every year recopying her work on paper. Every year, every semester, quizzes and exams, they have to be done paper-based. Everything has to be done manually. So she gets tired even like writing things down. So it's annoying. When you use technology, it makes it much easier. You just copy the files, give it to the students and reuse it all the time. Okay? What are the greatest challenges of using technology these days? What do you guys think? Cheating. Yes. Okay. What else? Yes. Okay. Yes. What else? Let's talk about it in a bigger scale, like on an organization scale or a country scale or whatever it is. What challenges do we face? Okay. Lack of creativity. Yes. What else? What do you think? Okay, yes, that's another thing, yes. Ethical problems, legal problems, yes, those kinds of things. Okay, so there are a lot of challenges for using technology in education. I listed some of them that I thought were like really important. The first thing is budget limitations. Even as educators, we want to use technology, we want to utilize it in our classrooms, but we have budget limitations. Like I said earlier, in the government schools, they don't have projectors. They don't have, some classrooms don't even have ACs. It's, it's very limited. They have limitations, a lot of limitations. They can't use this kind of stuff and it makes their job harder. So budget limitations. The second thing is lack of professional training. Yes, okay, we're welcoming you to use technology and everything, but we're not training you. And we faced some of those issues back in COVID days when we were required to use like Microsoft Teams and other tools basically to stream our lectures. A lot of teachers did not know how to do it. And they needed training on it and how to use like whiteboards, specifically for like math teachers and physics, math, those kinds of things where you have to write equations all the time. It was very difficult for instructors to do this online. It was very difficult. I remember like back in the day, again, I'm giving you the same example, my sister, she used to use my laptop, which is basically a touch screen, to write her equations because it made it easier because she can't write everything with her mouse. Okay, so lack of professional training is a little bit of a challenge as well. Poor network infrastructure. Yes, I can bring computers and everything, but maybe I don't have a good network infrastructure. I don't have good Wi-Fi. I don't have the right tools. Computers are not connected to each other. They can't see everything I'm doing properly. So there are a lot of issues as well. Resistance to change, and this is very important. Very important, resistant to change. A lot of people are resisting this change. Everybody's going to tech. Everybody is going to technology. These days, technology is the future. There are so many fields in technology that we can't even count anymore. There's a new field coming up every day. Back in the day, it was just computer science. Now you have cybersecurity, AI, machine learning, whatever. There's just so many things in technology. So you can't even count them. And a lot of people are resisting this change. Some people are refusing to even like check news on their phones. They're still using newspapers. They're still using paper-based exams, those kind of things. So it's a little bit difficult when you're trying to make a change in an organization. Yes?
Not so much
Depending on what you're teaching exactly. Yes, I understand that exactly, yes. Like even for learning, I'm giving you an example. I'm a programming teacher, okay? I teach programming. Programming is done on a computer, so you can't actually like teach it to be written on paper. This is just completely wrong. But I always tell my students, you have to practice. Whatever you're learning, you have to practice it. You have to type it. You have to practice it because you will remember it by typing it. Your mind will not remember it. And I always give this example to my students. The memory, whenever you learn something, it goes back. I'm giving you this example just to make it easier as a tech person. The things you learn go back to your hard disk. They're not saved in your RAM, okay? They're not in the quick access memory. But when you're using your hands to practice something, to write something, your hand will remember. Okay, your hand will remember, your fingers will remember. And another example about this, when I ask you to spell a word, just out of the blue, spell dangerous, for example, you have to think about how it's written so you can actually spell it. And when you write it, your hand will remember it more than your mind. The same goes for your phone number. If I ask you what's your phone number, sometimes you might forget. You just go to a dial pad and go like this and you will remember. So yes, your hands, your practice will help you remember. But this goes back to practicing actually what you're learning. It's not about just using technology or not. You have to practice it. If you're teaching them, for example, like languages like English, for example, of course they're going to have to write. They have to write things down. But from experience, they have to write it down, whether it's written or even typed, as long as they practice it. But with languages, you have to actually write it because sometimes you will need to write it. That's basic. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that is because it's tangible. Yes, it's easier usually to learn something when it's tangible. It goes to all kinds of learning. For example, if I teach you geometry, if I'm just drawing it on the board, you will not understand it. If I give you a shape, this is, for example, a shape, I can show you everything. So everything that's tangible, yes, it is easier to learn. That is true. But at the same time, you have to also utilize technology because newer generations, they don't want to do those old things. You try and give them a book, they'll just skim through it like this and be bored with it. It depends. It depends. It depends. It depends. You can try multiple methods, but it depends. I'm not against using books and those kind of things. Even though myself, I prefer actually using like a tablet. Honestly, I do not prefer using books, especially when I travel. I have all my books in my Kindle. It's easy instead of getting multiple books. But I do understand sometimes, yes, you want to touch it. Sometimes even when I'm teaching a course, I want the actual book. I want to open the pages and I want to touch it. I want to actually read it. Yes, but also you have to balance it in between. That's why we said earlier, do not overuse technology. You have to use it in the right way to engage students. But that doesn't mean just give up on textbooks or anything else. Okay? You have something, Farah? Yes.
Your research kind of balances out.
Yes,
Research shows that we need to find
yes.
using the traditional methods, you might lose your students. You're not connected to it. It's make it convenient for them. Actually, might enhance their ability.
Yeah, you can balance it out. Some students will completely reject the books, and some students will love it. They will reject the technology. I know some, like we have different cases, but we have to balance it out whenever we can. Okay? Yeah. Yes. No, but it wasn't like resisting exactly, but there weren't enough tools, because mathematics, for example, it's not easy typing. Typing anything mathematics is a little bit difficult, honestly, because you have to do equations, roots, whatever, those kinds of things are difficult. So it is kind of annoying. But yes, at the moment they went back to schools, but they're facing the issue where, okay, we've been using online tools, and she even started using, for geometry, for example, she started using 3D models to teach them like how to calculate things, angles, whatever it is. But now in the school, when they went back, there are no technology to use. So she has to still go back and draw things on a whiteboard. Yeah.
There's another dimension as well. There's sort of a pace of change. Some people feel they're getting that behind them.
Yes. Yes, that is a good point as well. Yes, especially with like older generations, with technology, it's a little bit difficult for them to learn it. So they think they're being left out. Yes. So yes. Yes. Anything else? Okay. So number 5 is no systems in place to utilize the technology in the curriculum. Sometimes we are teaching something, but there are no systems suitable to use for a specific course, for a specific environment, whatever it is. I remember back in the day, I used to work at some school, and obviously with learning languages, you need like audio to listen to. You need this kind of stuff, and they were not providing it. So the instructor was struggling with this kind of issue because she doesn't have the systems in place. They can type things, they can write whatever they want, they can listen to the teacher talk, but when they want to listen to a lesson online or something in the classroom, it was not available. So yes, systems in place could be also another issue. And unreliable devices and software. That was another example. Yes. Okay. Okay. Unreliable devices and software. That was another example where I don't know if you guys remember, but also in Kuwait, in the Ministry of Education, there was a time where they introduced some flash memories. They wanted to use iPads. They wanted to do like certain things, but it turned out that those flash memories were all infected with viruses. So they ruined everybody's computers. It was a disaster, and they canceled the whole project. And then they started doing iPad classes, where in the classroom, every student had an iPad. They tested it out for a couple of classes, and also it was unreliable because it kept disconnecting, and there were a lot of issues. So this did not happen. The last one is administrators don't see the need for more technology. The management sees like, "Khalas, you have enough technology. We don't need any more." Okay, so those are the challenges of using technology in education. The purpose of a PowerPoint. What is the purpose of a PowerPoint? It's to give power to a point. That's where the name comes from, PowerPoint. Okay, preparing for presentations. Use a design template so you can focus on the content. The template has to be kind of plain so you can focus on the content, not the design. Use PowerPoint interactively. You can add questions, whatever you want, pictures, images, those kinds of things. Outline the lecture so people can know what to expect by the end of the lecture. Use notes. Prepare handouts if needed. And there's something called the joy of 6. Maximum of 6 points and 6 words per point. Usually try to follow this. It makes everything easier, and even the content is easier to read and comprehend. How to design effective PowerPoint presentations. Make them visual, make them colorful, make them appealing to the eye, okay? Present in a variety of ways. Use tables, charts, shapes, graphics. Do not use paragraphs. Stair steps, don't overuse bullets. We don't need so many bullets, okay? Try to make it easy. Say it with graphics, use pictures, okay? Editing PowerPoint presentations, use the tools provided, it makes it easier. And presentations nowadays, you can actually draw on the presentation while you're explaining, so it's very useful. Focus on the content, not the presentation. Read and edit before showing. Whenever you're explaining something to your students, just rehearse it beforehand. Just make sure everything is relatable. What do you think of the following slides? I will show you a couple of slides and we will see. I like colors. What do you think of those colors? More appealing. You can see them better. Yes. What do you think of this color? We can't see it, right? What about this pink? Yes, you have to make some kind of contrast, yes. But usually try to use something visual, something you can actually see, something clear, and try to use bigger fonts. Specific colors are easier usually on the eyes. I don't know if you've ever read any kind of study about colors, but usually certain colors give you a calming feeling. Some of them make you nervous. So it all depends. Okay, so those are some colors. Yes. Yes, some people have color blindness or some kind of issues, so they can't see specific colors. Okay. Okay, let's see. What do you think? Distracting, right? So many movements. It's annoying. Back in the day when PowerPoint was first introduced, we were so happy to create this. It's like, oh, moving every word, every letter, and making it sounds like this. It's very, it's very quiet, but let me show you. Everything. Okay, so back in the day we were so happy, it was like something new and we wanted to do this, but nowadays it's very distracting. It's not nice, so try to make it less animated. Make the PowerPoints interactive, so you have questions, some discussions, whatever it is. Minimize animated text, sounds, transitions. Use 24 font or bigger. This is 26, by the way, and I can go bigger. Don't turn your back on your students. As much as possible, don't turn your back on students because they're here to learn from you. It's disrespectful to give them your back. Okay? And remember the joy of 6. Avoid PowerPoint overload and overuse. Focus on minimizing distractions. And this is one of the things that we just discussed earlier, distractions. Movements make a lot of distractions. Another thing is, for me specifically, I like to close the door usually before I start my lecture, especially for universities and colleges, because classrooms start at different times. It's not like schools, okay? So we have to close the door so nobody's walking around laughing or talking. It's a lot of distraction. Okay. The last thing we will discuss is mixing lecture with technology. There are so many ways to mix lectures with technology. The first thing is presentations with multimedia. And we discussed this earlier with the PowerPoint thing in so many details. Use colorful images, GIFs, short videos, graphs, soundtracks, whatever it is. Always use presentations. They're easier than using like a big textbook or something to present a specific point. Podcasts, they really matter. They make a big difference, especially for language learners. It makes a big difference. They need to listen to pronunciation. They need to listen to a lot of information. I want to give you an example of something that I've learned like a while back. I used to work at this place called Berlet's Language Institute. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a language institute. And obviously when you work there, you have to learn who is Berlet's, why he's doing this, his methodology. So the most important thing that I actually grasped from working there was Berlet's methodology. His methodology said, whenever you're teaching someone a new language, you're not supposed to translate it. You're supposed to say it in the native language. That's it. It is very wrong that you translate words. Very wrong. You're supposed to say it in the actual native language, and that's it. And they should start learning it bit by bit. Why? As an example, when we were babies, when we were kids, how did we learn languages? Did our parents teach us the language? They translated it into baby language? No. They were just talking to us and we got used to it. That's why usually when students go abroad to learn a language, it's easier for them because they're put on spot. They have to learn the language. But here they struggle with it because the way they teach us in schools, they keep translating it. And I see a lot of people actually writing it in Arabic, like the pronunciation for an English word in Arabic, which is very wrong because the pronunciation is completely different. Okay, so podcasts, use them in your classes. Use them in everything that you do, especially for learning languages. Use 3D models, take your students on virtual tools. This is very, very important. And there are a lot of examples on this kind of stuff. We hate whenever we have a field trip and it's canceled due to some circumstances, weather, budget, whatever it is. So we have a lot of tools, especially for, like, for example, we have Google Street View, the Google Cardboard. There are a lot of examples where you can take your students on a virtual tool using like VRs or maybe using just the website. And I can show you a couple of examples of 3D models. Let me just show you a couple of things, 3D and virtual tools. For 3D models, this looks like a square, but this is actually a cube. So this is very useful for like geometry classes, those kinds of things as well. You can also move it. So those are 3D models. Another example is, and let me show you here, you can take your students on virtual tours where you can go and watch something. You can go and walk towards a lot of places, okay? And there are a lot of things. You can take them to museums, whatever it is, even in your classroom. So it's very useful whenever you have a field trip canceled or you don't have the time or budget to take them outside. The what? Yeah, yes. It's just, there are a lot of websites. This one is called Mining Museum. I can give you like a list of the websites later because there are a lot of examples. It's not just one of them. There's a lot of them. Yeah, there's Google Street, and I just mentioned it actually in the presentation, Google Street View. There are a lot of examples, honestly, for this kind of stuff. Number 4, keep your class schedules online. Nowadays, like we said, everybody is using their phones and technology. So when they have it scheduled online, they will not forget your class. They will be reminded. For us, for example, at K-Tech, we use Microsoft Teams. So we always schedule our classes on Microsoft Teams and it appears on their calendars. So it's very useful for them. Number 5, videos for teaching. How to make your teaching videos. There are a lot of websites that can be helpful for this. There's a website called TED-ED. Okay, you can create your own lessons, and I will show you something in a little bit. I think I'm over the time, but I need to finish. So basically, you can create your own teaching videos with some examples, some assignments related to it. Hit social media. I know we don't like sharing our phone numbers with students and everything. I understand, I don't share my phone number either, but you can use other platforms. For example, Telegram. Telegram does not use your mobile number. It doesn't show your mobile number. You can create a group and you can add students to it and you can have some conversations through it, okay? Social media can be very helpful. I remember at one point, one of the schools we worked at, they did a couple of, it was kind of like a contest where students were asked to solve some questions. And once they get the answer, they go to social media or Twitter or something, and they hashtag the school name or something. And we get the feedback afterwards. So it made publicity for us, and it was using social media. So it was fun for the students, and they solved the actual contest or the questions. Number 7, social groups. Make discussion groups, forums, whatever it is. You can make social groups, and there are a few examples I can show you later, but we don't have much time. But basically, you can use any social groups. Tablets, smartboards, online whiteboards, a lot of examples about those kinds of things. They're also very useful for technology in classrooms. There's 2 more, Bess. We're almost done. Learning management systems, LMS, is very useful. You can share your resources, any kind of material. You can make discussions, announcements, any kind of information here. You can create your quizzes and they can be automatically graded and everything. So it's very useful. And the last thing is games, apps, augmented reality, virtual reality. Those kinds of things are very useful in our day-to-day activities as well. Okay. That's it basically. I just put some examples of games, how they can be helpful, chess, problem-solving games, those kind of things. And if you would like, those are kind of games that we can use through the class. I'm sorry I took so long, but there were a lot of discussions there and it was nice. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do have some actual examples. I can show you a couple of things if you guys want, but whoever wants to leave, you can. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Habibti, thank you. I can show you a couple of examples. Whoever wants to stay, I can show you a couple of examples. It's up to you. Okay? Yeah, I will share them. I will. Just give me a second. The virtual tours, there are so many of them. Well, let me. Yes, 1 second. No problem. Hello. Thank you. Okay. Hello, Habibti. Hello. Okay, the chat. We go here. There are so many, so I just messaged all of them. 5 of them. I just sent them in the chat. Okay. Another thing I wanted to show for whoever wants to see this, Kahoot, I'm sure you've heard of this. Okay, everybody knows it. Quizzes is very similar to Kahoot. You can create also your own quizzes. They can solve it on their own pace. Kahoot usually opens up a one pace, like everybody is following the teacher's pace. But quizzes has more features where students can solve their own quiz on their own pace and they get boosts over it. It's a game basically. Padlet is just a small example about it. Padlet is, how do I move this here? Okay. Padlet is where you make like a wall and people can add their answers to it. For example, I added a wall here and they can add their answers or discussion questions or whatever anonymously so that you don't embarrass them in the classroom. They can add their own questions. I can show you a QR code and they will basically just read it. They will add their own answers or questions or whatever according to the categories that you have. It's completely free. You can do whatever you want on it. Another example I wanted to show you, remember when I said you can create your own lesson, the video lesson? TED, yes, ed.ted. This is amazing as well. I created this small lesson, okay? This is an English thing. It talks about the simple past. Basically, I added a video on simple past from YouTube and the students will watch it and then they will think and solve a question, a couple of questions that I can add and it will be automatically graded and everything should be fine. If they want to dig deeper, you can give them an extra assignment. They can discuss it. So there's a forum as well. And finally, they can just find more resources. So this is also free. Everybody can use it. It's very useful. You can create your own lessons and they can use it normally. The video, you can create something, but you can put it like, for example, on YouTube and then add it here. Or you can like save it somewhere and just upload it, okay? There's no recording on the system specifically. There are other games, and this is one of my favorites for English learners, Hangman. I'm sure you've played this as kids. You can guess a couple of words. You can create a word list and they can start guessing it. If you tell me, for example, let's guess a couple of letters. We can guess here a couple of letters. For example, let's say E, it will show me something, R, and you can start guessing the actual word. Okay, so this is also very useful for those kinds of things. There are just a lot of things. I don't know if there's any math teachers here, but there is like a whiteboard where you can use a lot of examples with it. I don't want to take a lot of your time, so I'm just gonna end this session. But if you would like, those are tools that I usually use myself in my classrooms. So you can take a picture or whatever it is. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I want to random people.
Yes, that's another example. Yes.
And then they answer the questions independently. They only see the results at the end, which is nice, but then they won't like compare themselves.
That's nice. That's actually very nice. Yes. That's very nice. Yes. Thank you. We have 73 people online. Thank you. Thank you, Hala. Okay.